Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It opens with two researchers on their rubber dinghy arguing about a string of recent disappearances on the lake. They're here to collect water samples, but when one gets too close to the surface he's dragged underneath, and when Frank tries to pull him back into the boat all he recovers is an arm. Nearby Sheriff James prepares to go to work when he gets the call about Frank and the attack. His son Scott's staying with him from Boston for the summer and is told to talk to the attractive neighbor since he hates it here so much. When Jim leaves, he embarrasses Scott by putting in a good word with the neighbor Kerri on his way to the sheriff's office. Before entering, the reporter Mr. Minor questions him about a potential serial killer in the area, but James doesn't give any comment. Inside, he talks to Frank about the disappearance as the deputies laugh at the far-fetched story, until the researcher shows all that's left of his partner's an arm and a leg. Fish and Wildlife send Emma over to investigate what's happening, and she accompanies her ex-boyfriend James out onto the lake. On their way to the crime scene, they pass a cabin that James says belongs to an old lady whose sister supposedly owned 40-foot crocodiles. Frank thinks this would have been better information earlier, but James says it's only an urban legend and no one has died at the lake in many years. When they get to the location, the wildlife expert didn't bring a wetsuit for some reason and jumps into the lake in her underwear to look around. She swims back up with the researcher's severed head, confirming Frank's story and a monster in the lake. The group return to land, where Emma requests a few questions from Sadie at the nearest house, but she declines and slams the door in her face. The sheriff attempts to ask the same questions about her sister and any giant crocodiles that she might be hiding, but the old wench demands he return with a warrant. Elsewhere on the lake, three young people come down to go skinny dipping and the girls jump in first. When the guy turns away for only a moment to take off his clothes, a large crocodile eats both girls without either making a peep. Assuming they're just playing a prank on him, the guy enters the water to find a bloody bikini and gets snatched up by the croc. Scott decides to walk down to the lake and it appears like a croc approaching, but it's just the dog Daisy. She's owned by Scott's crush Kerri, who he finally gets to meet and learns that she has a boyfriend, unfortunately named Thad. He's the typical hick who hates Scott already for his father being the sheriff, but Kerri invites the newcomer to join their camp to show that they're not all Thads. As they leave the spot, Daisy barks at the croc watching them from the lake, but when Kerri looks, it's already submerged. Meanwhile, a glammed up Sadie's being sweet-talked by Minor on her dock to get the story out of her. She seems cooperative and points out a school of white perch before going back to her cabin to get some food. The photographer begins taking pictures when realizing why the fish are so scared, but it's too late and a large croc snatches him off the dock. Going out to search the lake on the boat again, Frank falls overboard when James stops, but he's pulled back on board no problem. Just then a crocodile appears creeping up behind Emma, but before James can shoot it, the creature knocks the three off the boat and into the lake. It destroys the boat as Frank swims to shore, but for some reason Emma needs James to break her out of her doggy paddle. Luckily, a plane flies overhead, distracting the croc long enough that they make it to land, and meet the hunter Jack Struthers and his pilot Ahmad, who's loyal to his boss for saving him from a lion when he was young. The arrogant hunter's got the hots for Emma, so the jealous James makes him pay $40 a day for having his plane docked on the lake. He has the resentful Ahmad set up camp while he lounges around and gets an earful from Emma, who despises the poacher despite him having all of the right paperwork in this instance. The group connect with Deputy Dale, who comes in to unload the boat full of supplies for their hunting of the creature. They set up a trap and the wildlife expert uses a turtle for bait, but Jack doesn't think it's large enough since this crocodile eats people. Luckily, a wild boar walks over and gets caught in the trap, so James goes to release it when the giant croc emerges from the bushes and drags the whole boar inside. They blindly open fire into the shrubbery and the croc's neutralized with multiple darts from a tranquilizer. Dale confidently ties the mouth with a rope just like in the Scouts, but the still conscious beast breaks free and bites off his arm. It quickly devours him, then retreats into the river, knocking Frank away, who somehow dies from falling down a cliff half his height. Deciding to just kill the creature instead of catch it, the sheriff's crew get the boat ready with a boar carcass bait and Ahmad arms a harpoon to shoot the crocodile with. Jack takes all the weapons that he thinks he'll need, including a grenade launcher that'll hit a target at 200 yards. Before they go out hunting, James comforts Emma, who feels guilty since the trap was her failure of an idea. Meanwhile, the prissy Rachel and her not boyfriend Larry arrive at the lake to join the sheriff's son and his new friends. They begin to set up camp on the edge of the lake, where the boyfriends both go for a swim, but Scott's not a swimmer. Kerri tries to convince Scott to join them, but he's uneasy with going in the lake and remains on land with Rachel. When Kerri enters the water and Rachel begins tanning, Scott decides to go for a walk around the area and stumbles upon the large nest of the crocodile. He runs back to camp to show the others, but only Kerri and Thad join him while Rachel and Larry remain on the beach. While swimming by himself, Larry has a jump scare with the crocodile first, but it avoids him and goes for Rachel instead. She thinks it's Larry giving her a foot massage only for a crocodile to drag her into the lake as the horrified survivors unable to save her. The others finally reach the nest and Thad enters with Kerri to begin playing around with the creature's eggs. The couple is oblivious to it being a nest or that they're even holding eggs to begin with despite it being obvious. Scott warns them to put them back and calls Thad a hick, so he breaks an egg and tries to fight the new guy but Kerri defends him. An angry Thad returns to the nest to crush the remaining eggs when Mum gets home and finds the destruction. She defends her babies by killing Thad and dragging him into the nest as Scott and Kerri run away. Meanwhile, James and Ahmad take the boat to locate the crocodile while Emma remains on shore with the sonar and Jack takes the plane. On the way, Ahmad says that Jack failed every flight test known to man and has crashed 3 times, resulting in the death of a child once. When Emma tells them the location of the croc, the pair park up and the creature takes the bait. The first 1,500-pound line that Ahmad fires into the croc with a harpoon breaks off instantly and it returns. As Ahmad lines up another shot, Jack comes flying through like a madman, getting the harpoon caught in the plane. James and Ahmad jump overboard as the plane's floorings ripped off, destroying both vehicles and expelling Jack into the lake. The crocs right on him, so Emma with a shotgun and Ahmad with a knife rush to defend him, but the hunter gets cast off. When the croc goes for Emma, he returns and lands the kill shot to the crocodile before letting out a scream. That night, as they're celebrating, Emma points out that it was Ahmad who killed the crocodile, but Jack tries to claim it as his. The business partners argue about their worth and Ahmad quits as he sees his debt to Jack repaid for saving his life. A thunderstorm hits, forcing the crew to their tents, and as they're sleeping, an even larger crocodile enters the campsite. It goes for Jack, but once again Ahmad saves him and leaps on the back of the croc, but this one shakes him off and kills him before escaping into the lake again. Meanwhile, Scott and Kerri have been wandering around the woods in the rain for hours for some reason until they find an exhausted Larry. They come across the croc but manage to avoid it when they climb a tree that it's unable to follow and just waits for them to come down. It's now when the sheriff gets a call from his deputy to tell him that Scott left a message that he's going camping down at the lake. James is angry as he told them to close the lake down, and the 3 go to meet Sadie again and demand answers. She tells them that there are 3 crocodiles, 2 small males and 1 large female. She's been feeding them meat rejected by the FDA for having too many growth hormones injected into it, and Emma says it's a surprise the crocs even survived. They return to hunting the creatures while Sadie wishes them luck but sarcastically says they're going to need it against her babies. James goes out searching for the kids when a sleeping Larry falls from the tree directly on top of the crocodile. It kills and eats him, so Scott and Kerri try to use this moment to escape but run into the second and last remaining male. Suddenly James arrives with the grenade launcher and kills the crocodile, saving the kids and leaving 1 croc remaining. He takes the pair to Sadie's, who lets the teenagers in her house for safety, and Scott shows his father the first sign of affection the whole movie when he hugs him. He remains at the house with Sadie, who talks about losing 2 out of her 3 children recently, while Kerri says how disgusting the crocodiles are, not realizing she's talking about the same children. Because of this, Sadie tricks Kerri and Scott down to the lake pretending to need the light bulb changed on the dock. She does the look at the perch technique to betray Kerri, but she spins her around and Sadie's devoured by her own child, who chases the teens into the house. Meanwhile, the adults recover the eggs from the croc nest and set up a trap using explosives to destroy the final beast. It returns from Sadie's cabin before they finish and chases Emma inside a tree stump where James is unable to fire the grenade launcher or else risk hitting her. Emma manages to kill it herself by sticking her machete through the tree and into the crocodile's brain from underneath. She kisses James to celebrate their victory while Jack hangs upside down on a tree laughing about it, when his head's suddenly bitten off by a 4th crocodile that Sadie failed to tell them about. James uses the grenade launcher to no effect but is saved by Scott, who tackles him out of the way of the charging beast. When it goes for Emma in front of its nest, James tries to use the detonator but it doesn't work, so he shoots a grenade at the crocodile, blowing the explosives beside it and destroying the final beast. When it's all over, James drives Emma back to town while Scott and Kerri talk about meeting up when she attends college in Boston. Daisy returns after abandoning them earlier and the 2 kiss as James makes plans with Emma to do the same. They proceed to head back to the science lab in town for analysis with the giant crocodile's eggs. And the movie ends.